we're going to let our guy, Craig Morgan, lead things off as far as who he views as the key players in this game for the Cardinals.
Save us, Craig.
All right. I like Trey McBride coming back in this one, and man, do I think they're going to need the safety valve against this rush, against this defense. They really missed him last week, and I don't want to say that was the difference in the game because there were obviously a lot of issues, but I think Trey McBride could have a big return here, and he could really relieve things for Kyler Murray, who's probably going to have to run a little bit this week. I think we'll be okay with that, by the way. Budda Baker, I don't know what else to say about this guy. He's bringing it. He's bringing it every week. I don't think he should be leading the team in tackles. That's probably not a good sign, but he's been bringing a high octane effort every time he steps on the field. I loved his comments this week. I do love the fact that he does hate the 49ers, and he was willing to say that. So thank you, Budda. So I'm picking him as my defensive star of this game. And then what are we gonna see in the secondary, guys? What's gonna happen here with Garrett out? Max Melton played well last week. They all talked about it. Is he gonna have a greater role? Can he have an impact on this game?
I like it. I think this has got to be a chalk game too. I think this is a game where you got to lean on your stars to not only help you potentially win, but to just keep this competitive. Like you're not losing like you did last week and then turn into like, I don't know, Tip Ryman. Like, man, Tip, we really need you to step up this week, bro. It's like, look to the guys that are making big time money.
No catches.
Like Jalen Thompson, I think he would tell you hasn't had the best start to the year. He was a great player last year, and he's making a lot of money on this defense, considering how much they're paying the rest of their defense. So, the guys who've been around, the guys who this team invested in, both as a Keim guy or a top draft pick once upon a time, like those players need to step up. And to your point, Craig, like if they're not going to step up in this kind of game, like here's why, like I don't think they're going to trade and deal players from the 53-man roster.
The Budda Baker for Hassan Reddick trade? No. Okay.
I don't think they would do that, but I don't know how you sit here and you're like, we're not going to. I genuinely believe it would be in the best interest of the team if it's late October and they've got some veterans that could get them some draft capital. But let's see if those players can help make that decision for them. Go out there and play well and just help them win a game within that we're not talking about being sellers. They're talking about being viable come Halloween, Bo.
And Trey McBride, last game against the Niners, 11 targets, 10 catches, 102 yards. Pretty good performance. This year, though, the Niners guarding the tight end pretty well. Haven't seen much production from that. But without Fred Warner, it makes things easier for a guy like Trey McBride. Johnny, why don't you jump in second here? And then Damon and I'll be the caboose this week.
Perfect. I'm going to double down on Craig's prediction with Trey McBride. I think Trey McBride is the X factor this week, obviously, or the offensive star, I should say. Again, he was not a focal point in the first 3 games in which he was active. I think that changes. I think Kyler Murray forces him and MHJ the ball early in this game. He's got the physicality you want. You're talking about setting that tone. He's one of the best players on your team. And maybe I discredited the loss of him last week. I won't do that again. How about on the defensive side? Like I'm grasping right now. Who's going to step up? I think Kazir White's a good player. I think he has an opportunity maybe to intercept a pass. I don't think the Arizona Cardinals have a calling card defensively though. So if it's not Kazir White, who is it? Dennis Gardeck and Zaven Collins are not beating the tackles for San Francisco. Zaven Collins is not beating Trent Williams, right? There's no Garrett Williams this week. So I'm kind of picking Kazir White by default. I want it to happen. I want to will it to happen. Can he help prevent this run game? And then I think Michael Wilson continues what he did last year. He smoked San Francisco in that game in Santa Clara for 2 touchdowns. It was arguably his best game as a rookie. You can stretch the field vertically on San Francisco. You can run on them. I mean, this just feels like a game in which if I'm Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing, I'm going for it on 4th down and manageable. I'm being hyper aggressive. I'm not giving respectfully DeMercado meaningless carries in the 3rd quarter. If I'm going to lose this game, I'm going to lose it with my best players having a chance to make plays. And if they can't make plays, then we'll have a different conversation. If I'm Drew Petzing, do not lose with guys who are not marquee players on your roster. Go to your best players.
All right, let's get into my predictions. I'm going to start us off.
Did you have Dermocado as your X factor?
I did have Dermocado as my X factor. No, I'm going with Marvin as my offensive star. Justin Jefferson had 133 yards against the 49ers. They also gave up 98 yards to Allen Lazard. They've been giving up decent yardage to wide receivers, or at least one wide receiver per game.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Marv to be that guy for this team. I think you just feed him, and I didn't get a chance to say it earlier, but it really does feel like this is the same team as last year once Kyler came back, minus or with the caveat of adding a wide receiver one in there. And I think that they'll lean on Marv all season. From a defensive standpoint, grasping at straws, didn't know who to pick. I think Mac Wilson's been one of the lone bright spots on this team. So I was going to go with him, and I think he'll make at least one good defensive play this Sunday, which,
that's the bar.
Yeah, it really is the bar. And then for X Factor, I chose Dennis Gardeck. I kind of was just using him as like the face of the pass rushing unit.
Yeah.
I just think you gotta get to Brock Purdy. The Vikings, for example, I keep going back to that game, but the Vikings defense got 6 sacks on the 49ers in that game. Brock Purdy, it was probably his worst game of the season. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I think if the Cardinals have any chance of winning this game, they got to create some pressure. So I'm just kind of doing that whole edge rushing unit as a X factor of the game.
You mentioned the Vikings pass rush. Bo, who plays for the Vikings pass rush? Quick question. Put you on the spot here.
Jonathan Grenard. Yep.
Okay.
I gotcha. I
see
what you're putting down here.
Andrew Van Ginkel as well, I think.
And
Dallas Turner.
Dallas Turner. 3 guys that were
First
available. Interesting. Those are interesting facts. Continue.
Yeah. Heavy investments there. I mean, they had a lot of their roster already, in place when they went out and did
that. They had Sam Darnold already in place to help that pass rush.
Let's get to my predictions. I'm not going to be roasted here right before I make my choices for who I think can make an impact for the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be pretty chalky. This is, but you need it in games like this. You need the stars to step up and play like stars, including your quarterback, Kyler Murray. And it's been a couple down weeks after an incredible performance against the Rams. We need Kyler Murray to come out and do what he did early in his career and be a menace to the San Francisco 49ers. He needs to be on his game beyond the first drive of the game where they've cashed in now 4 out of 4 straight weeks. Can they make it 5 straight weeks and then some and consistently play 4 quarters of offensive football? It's going to come down to number 1, Kyler Murray for the Cardinals offense. And I think that this could be that opportunity for him, especially with Warner not being on the field potentially for the Niners. Defensive star, I was like Johnny, I wanted to maybe shy away from the edge rushers, but I think that Zaven Collins obviously makes a more of an impact, not just getting to the quarterback. It's not something he consistently does, but can do it in the run game, can do it coverage-wise. I think Zaven Collins can have his number called in a positive way this game. I think he can be the guy on the defensive side of the football. Didn't like anybody in the secondary without Garrett Williams, so I went with Zaven. And then the X factor, Greg Dortch, he's had good games against the Niners in his career. His only 100-yard receiving game went against the Niners. I think that he's a guy that's been slow to get going this season. I think this is a good opportunity for him as they'll get Marv going and hopefully Michael Wilson, but also Greg Dortch. So if the offense gets on track, then Greg Dortch can be that X factor in that in the beneficiary of that, one of many. So I got Greg Dortch as my guy.
Boy, did I feel the conviction in all these picks. There was so much passion behind this.
The only saving grace is Brandon Staley coaches the Niners defense, or he's part of that staff. So
all right, let's get to our game predictions. I'll go first since I went last as far as we got them all up here. It is across the board 49ers sweep, and it pains us to do this. But who wants to explain themselves?
I'll start because everybody wants me to pick the Niners because I'm 0 for 8 on predictions this year, both on game predictions and hold and fold the line.
Road to 0 for 10.
I don't think there's any I don't think the Cardinals are winning this game. So I'm not going to lie to everybody. You want me to say, oh yeah, they're winning. I think they're going to be competitive offensively. I think we'll see some highlights and they'll give us some hope into the second half. And then I think this defense will collapse on itself. And I think the defense and the lack of turnovers and the lack of big plays sucks the life out of this team. And then you feel tight offensively because you have to make perfect plays. Look at last week. Jaden Daniels went down. They scored. The Cardinals matched it. And then Jaden Daniels went down and did it again. It's like, we got to get tight. We got to do this. We got to do this. Soul-sucking defenses do that. And they make you feel like you have to play a perfect game. And I resent them for that. Cardinals lose by 8.
I've got the Cardinals losing by 10, putting up 24 points, but surrendering 34 points to the Niners. You've got the Niners struggling to rack up yak. They used to be the yak boys in the Bay. No longer. They're actually second least in yak, but you see Brock Purdy throwing the ball down the field at a very high clip. And it's going to be a good opportunity for him to get on track with Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel could potentially play and help fill the void potentially left by George Kittle. This passing attack still continues to be solid, and so is the run game without Christian McCaffrey and the offensive line up front. I mean, just the trenches in general for the Niners, it's just way above and way more mature when the Cardinals need to be. So they win this one 34-24.
And that's been the trademark for the 49ers under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. They've invested in their lines. They are good in the trenches. Jordan Mason is just the latest running back to have success in this offense. It's startling that all four of us have the 49ers scoring 30 or more points in this game. I do think that they're going to grind this out a little bit more, so the score is going to be a little lower than you guys do, and that's because they're going to run the ball. In case you haven't noticed, the Cardinals haven't really stopped the run very well the past 2 weeks, and I think they're going to have a really difficult time in this one. They're going to take it on the chin. They're losing by 13.
I'd love to be proven wrong about this, but I just see the 49ers just running the football the entire game and the Cardinals defense not being able to stop them. So I like the 49ers to be out ahead, to control this game, running the football, score, I think 5 touchdowns here. And then I think the Cardinals will just be playing catch up, maybe make it a little bit closer than it really is late. But I expect kind of a blowout here, 49ers by 14.
So gross. I hate it, but it's as about as accurate as they come. I think all of us have good rationale because we've watched this team, and until they prove us differently, then it's going to be a bad time.
We all silly like the mayor.